broadcasting live from SOAHR 2023 at the Gas South District Convention Center in Duluth, Georgia. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio, brought to you by Oberman Law Firm, helping you navigate the complexity of workplace issues. Now, here's your host.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome back to SOAHR 2023, the annual conference of SHRM Atlanta. I'm John Ray with Business RadioX, and we are at the Gas South District Convention Center. It's been a fabulous time. The convention center is beautiful. Highly recommend to groups that are interested in a venue like this to check it out. It's been terrific, and SHRM made the move here a little bit different than they have over the last 15 years and moved it here for the first time, and it's been just a terrific time here these last 2 days. And just a reminder that our interviews here while we've been at SOAHR 2023 are underwritten by Oberman Law Firm. If you've got legal complexities in the workplace that you need assistance with, Oberman Law is your call. So give them a call, and I think you'll be glad you did. Claudia Rossi is with us. She is with Revolution U Coaching. Claudia, welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So let's give everyone an introduction to you and your work. How are you serving folks out there?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So I work with people who are in career transition, who either don't know what they want to do and want some help figuring that out, or they know what they want to do, they want some help finding that job with resumes or LinkedIn or networking or interviewing. So anyone who's in that spot of feeling kind of stuck about where they are and wants some professional help in moving to the next step.
What are you, Claudia, finding in terms of, I guess, just what it looks like for people? I know everybody's in a different place, and I get that, but we're obviously in a time where it's hard to find talent. So what that means is if you have talent, you've got a job, and maybe you're whether you're happy or not is another matter. But what are you seeing with people and where they are in their careers, and do they want to make a change? Are they coming out of the pandemic happy, unhappy? Where are people these days?
They're all over the place, John. Yeah. So we've got people who are in a job and feel like they really would like a new challenge, but they're a little bit concerned right now with the job market being the way it is for certain industries about leaving something behind.
Sure.
At the same time, most people that I work with, they want more from the companies that they work with.
Right.
And a lot of times it is the flexible schedule, or it is just that feeling, the culture they're looking for, where they feel like they're appreciated. Yeah.
And what it's funny how we have to keep talking about this, right? I mean, you would think that companies would get the message after a certain point, right? And there's only so much HR leaders can do with the resources that they have, right?
And I do see a lot more recognition from organizations that they want to offer more for their employees.
Right.
One thing a trend that I'm seeing is that more organizations willing to invest in leadership coaching for their employees to help them get the most out of their work life, but also their personal life, because they recognize that the happier people are with life in general, the more productive employee they're going to be.
Yeah.
So I see more of that being offered to people at lower levels of the organization instead of just at the C-suite.
Yeah. So let's talk about that individual. And I know, again, it depends on your industry, but the individual out there that is just, they're not content with the direction of their career. They come to see you. What happens? How does that conversation unfold?
Yeah, that's another great question there, John. So I always have a 1-hour discovery call with people before we decide to work together, just to feel that out, because the answer to that question depends upon the individual.
Right.
So a big part of that is first understanding why they aren't happy where they're at, and then we put together a plan to help them figure that out. It's kind of a science, but there's a lot of art to it, because it varies so much from person to person, and it evolves as we work together.
Do you find that in those situations that people are are they ready to be honest with you? I mean, does everything come out on the table, I guess? Because that's really what you need to help them make a great decision, right?
Very true. And that's part of what that 1 hour call is in the beginning, to make sure that they're in the right space to do that. Because very much to your point, the more honest they are, not just with me, but with themselves, the better results they're going to get. So that's part of the valuation.
Right.
But I found, surprisingly so, that most people, when they're at that stage of being unhappy with their career, they're so eager for help that they're willing to do that.
How often do you have situations where you find yourself simply pointing individuals to, I guess what you might say, what the forest looks like instead of the trees that they've been walking around in? In other words, that maybe the opportunities and what they have in their current organization are better than what they think.
Yeah. So a lot of times what happens is that as we work through this process, they realize that it's not really a matter of finding something better or different. It's a matter of how do they reframe their perspective so that where they're at is really okay for now. They can get more out of that by looking for opportunities within the organization or within their current role.
Yeah, because sometimes people, they've got their head down so much in their day-to-day responsibilities that they really haven't spent time cultivating what the future looks like, right?
Yeah, and I can speak to this because this was me earlier in my career.
Say more about that.
Yeah, which is why I'm so passionate about what I do, is I spent a good bit of my career trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I felt like there was something out there for me that I was missing. And I know that when you're in that space, you're always thinking about things that are not working for you instead of thinking about things that are working and going well. And that's part of what I help people with, is how do you really understand the things you do that you enjoy and how do you get more of them? And that's part of my process, is to help them go through that and analyze what do they really like doing.
Let's talk a little bit about that process. What does that look like in terms of what you take your clients through? So
I have a program called Unlock Your Genius. It's a 10-step process that I take people through. And we start at the very big picture perspective of them, what they want from their life. What's their vision of their life, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And then we work down, I say it's like a funnel. You start at the wide end of the funnel, and each week we narrow that perspective down to narrow that funnel down. So it could be starting with what's your life vision, what are the values that are important to you, what are the things that you really love to do, what are your strengths, what are the skills that you have that you could spend all day doing. And then we look at things like, what are those beliefs that are really stopping you and holding you back that you may not even be aware of. And then all that kind of percolates down, and usually through the process, just the magic of coaching, people figured that out along the way.
So it sounds like some of those answers are there. You're just guiding them to what they really can't get to on their own.
You sound like you know something about coaching.
I've interviewed a few of them. Yeah,
that's very true. That's the job of the coach, is help people come up with their own answers.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. But they may have their own answers, but they wouldn't get to those answers unless they had some help from someone like you.
Very true. And just, going back to my story, I consulted with people when I was trying to figure out my career and never could find someone who could help me get outside my own head. And it wasn't until I went through my own coach training and realized, that's how you do it, that I decided this is what I wanted to do.
Right. So what there may be some obvious answers to this there are obvious answers to this question, but there are less obvious answers, which is why I asked the question. When should somebody call you? When should somebody engage you for help in their career?
Yeah, another great question. So a lot of times people don't come to me until they've spent years being unhappy and miserable. It's harder to dig out of that hole than it is earlier in the process. So I would say anybody who feels like something's not going quite right in their career, maybe they just want to get a promotion and they're not getting it. It's worth their time just to talk to a coach and see if someone can help them.
Yeah. What do you see, Claudia, in terms of the willingness that people have to be honest with themselves? Because Not everything is the boss's fault, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not everything's the company's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the old saying, we've seen the enemy and the enemy's in the mirror, right?
Right.
So talk about how you walk people through just being honest with themselves.
Yeah. So a lot of times when people come to me, I think they're at the point where they feel like there's nowhere else to go. They've hit bottom, and it's a terrible place to be. But it's a matter of accepting that it's time for help. And I think at that point, most people are willing to. They're eager. They're willing to listen to anything that a coach may have to offer them to help them in that process. So I find that most people at that point are pretty honest about the situation. Now, they might need help with really evaluating the fact that it's not all their boss's fault.
Right.
But I found them to be pretty receptive to that.
Yeah, that's great. So let's be specific about those that you work with, the types of individuals you work with that are best fits for you. Yeah,
they fall into a few groups. So there's the one we've been talking about, the people who are unhappy with what they're doing and want some help figuring out their next step. There's that group. There's people who want to find another job. They know what they want. Maybe they've lost their job or they have a job, but they want to find something else to do. And I help them through the process of resume, LinkedIn. How do you interview? How do you find jobs? How do you negotiate salary? And then the third group are entrepreneurs who either are thinking of starting a business and aren't quite sure what they want to do, or those who have a business and want to take it to the next level and want some help kind of getting outside their own head.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like there might be a few folks out there listening that want to know more about what you have to offer, maybe engage you and at least have a conversation with you. So let's tell them how they can find you.
Yeah, they can go to my website, which is revolutionucoaching.com. And there's a link on there to schedule a free discovery call. It's no obligation, no cost, and we can just have a chat and see if it makes sense to work together.
Claudia Rossi, folks, with Revolution U Coaching. This has been terrific, Claudia, and I'm so glad you stopped by, and thank you for the work you do, because it's important work, and you're helping people at vulnerable times in their lives, and that's very honorable, terrific work. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, John. It's been a real pleasure to see you here and be on your show here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. This episode of North Fulton Business Radio is underwritten by Oberman Law Firm. Oberman Law helps local, regional, and national clients manage the sensitivities of employee relations in the workplace.